Welcome back to State of the Nation. The Prime Minister can't say Britain can afford to ignore the opportunities presented by China as he prepares to become the first UK Prime Minister in 8 years to visit Peking, called Beijing by communist sympathisers. Flanked by dozens of businessmen, Sir Keir Starmer says his trip is about pragmatism, trade, growth and not sticking our head in the sand. He says Britain does not have to choose between China and the United States and that engagement can happen without compromising security. But there is a problem at the heart of this, and that is the issue of the wrongly imprisoned British citizen Jimmy Lai. China is not just a trading partner. It is an authoritarian state that imprisons its critics, crushes dissent, and ignores international obligations. That's when it's not busy spying on us. Jimmy Lai remains behind bars for the crime of standing up for democracy in Hong Kong, which ought to be allowed under the agreement signed by Margaret Thatcher and Deng Xiaoping, the joint declaration prior to the handover of Hong Kong in 1997. Mr. Lai is jailed under Peking's national security law, not because he did anything wrong, but because he dared to challenge the reduction of free speech in Hong Kong imposed by the mainland communist Chinese. British citizenship should mean that when a hostile state abuses the rights of one of our citizens, the British government does not carry on flattering and making agreements with the perpetrator. They don't abide by their agreements. That's the whole point. The joint declaration is not being followed. You can't trust them. Yet instead of demanding his release, the Prime Minister is kowtowing for significant opportunities and approving further engagement as China continues to refuse to release Mr. Lai. This sends a message that economics and photo opportunities matter more than the basic liberty of a British citizen. Foreign policy involves difficult choices, but some principles should not be negotiable. A government that cannot demand the freedom of a wrongfully imprisoned British citizen has no business talking about values, human rights, or the rule of law, because it doesn't really believe in them. Until Jimmy Lai walks free, Britain should not be expanding relations or cooperation with China or pretending this is a normal partnership. The Prime Minister should be clear: no cooperation with China until Jimmy Lai is released.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
I'm now joined by the former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat. Tom, thank you for joining me. Are you still persona non grata as far as China is concerned?
Yes, sadly, all of my assets in China have been seized. I mean, this has left me short of absolutely nothing at all. But I am sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party for the extraordinary abuse of standing up for Chinese citizens in Hong Kong, what we call Hong Kongers, but calling for their democratic rights as guaranteed, as you correctly said, in the deal struck between Margaret Thatcher and Deng Xiaoping, that should be recognized, which sadly it is not.
So what we have is a Prime Minister who is going out to China with MPs who are still sanctioned, with democracy completely ignored, to do on-the-side deals that may earn us a pound or two, but not making the fundamental point that China ought to behave properly in the international arena.
Well, let's just be clear. Jimmy Lai is in prison for the crime of what you're doing right now, journalism. I mean, if that's a crime, then frankly, the UK should all be arrested. And it's absolutely extraordinary that our Prime Minister has gone out to Beijing without even getting a prior agreement on these things. It's genuinely extraordinary. He's given away two big wins to the Chinese. The first is his visit, which demonstrates a certain legitimacy. And the second, of course, is the embassy, which I'm sure you'll want to come on to. But he's given both of these away without getting anything in return. We still have Chinese diplomats who are beating up protesters in the United Kingdom. We still have huge amounts of industrial espionage in the United Kingdom. We still have the extraordinary sight of Chinese students being forced in many cases to spy on their friends and classmates. You know, all of these should stop. And the Prime Minister should not be going to China until they have agreed to stop them.
Absolutely. And the reason I pay so much attention to Jimmy Lai is because China made an agreement with us, the joint declaration, in good faith, which we had a reasonable expectation would be fulfilled. And it seems to me absolutely pointless to go out and make further agreements with China if the main agreement between the two countries is ignored.
Well, I agree with you. And, you know, let's look at this agreement just for a second, because, you know, we've just been told that we have to obey the jurisdiction of a non-binding court that has no authority over the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean. But somehow or other, we're supposed to ignore a treaty signed between two sovereign states, China and the United Kingdom, lodged with the United Nations, and that therefore now has the strength, the validity of international law. Now, why are we listening to one and not the other? Well, it seems that international law, according to some lawyers, is a rather more elastic concept than they would like us to believe.
And that when you look at the embassy as well, in both cases, the British government is showing weakness. And that China is not a stupid country. It may be a totalitarian regime, but the leadership isn't stupid. And they respond to weakness by demanding more. The only countries who ever have a proper relationship with China are the ones who stand up to it. Do you think that's a fair analysis?
I think it's completely accurate. And you know, don't just look at the United Kingdom, look at the way that China has behaved towards other countries in Europe or indeed in Southeast Asia and across the world. Consistently, those countries that stand up to it, there's then the claim that somehow or other this is going to damage trade. But Jacob, I know this is a radical idea, but trade isn't an act of charity. Trade is what happens when people have something to sell and you have a client who wants to buy it. That's trade. It's not charity. It's not gifts. It's not global communism. It's the nature of exchange between human beings who want and who need.
Oh, and also we buy much more off China than they buy from us, and that the Chinese economy has not been growing as fast as has hoped. I mean, their figures are all nonsense, and they met their target for last year, but nobody actually believes that that is true. I bet Rachel Reeves wishes she could make the figures up like that. They need to sell to us. It's crucially important to their social cohesion that they maintain high levels of employment. So not all the cards are with the communists.
No, I completely agree. And more than that, actually, if you look at the one of the most horrific policies of Deng Xiaoping, which, of course, the one-child policy, which led to not only enormous personal suffering for many families who were denied the opportunity to have more than one child, but actually, and this is what's massively underreported, also led to mass murders of not just fetuses aborted and children in wombs aborted, but actually to the murder of young children, what was used to be called euphemistically postnatal abortions. Not only was that a cruelty at the time, but actually it's having a really important effect, which is that China's growth rate is now on a catastrophically low level. And therefore what we're seeing a population getting much older, much older before it can get rich. Now that's having real implications for the economy. It's having a disastrous impact on the housing market. And we can see it in various different figures across China. So the idea that this is one powerful state and one weak state, I'm afraid is complete rubbish. The United Kingdom has got problems. Look, you're not going to hear me say that we don't. But the reality is I would rather be trying to govern the United Kingdom than China any day of the week. China has got a really, really bad bet, which is that its population is falling, its economy is struggling, and the only way that it can survive is more and more repression.
All right, Tom, thank you very much for joining me.